All right, welcome back. Coming in at number 5, vocal EQ automation. If you've got a song with a dense mix, a chorus that's lots of stuff happening, drums, bass, keys, guitars, it's rocking, you may find that you need to thin that vocal out a little bit, but then maybe the verse, you get some of that stuff that kind of dies down, you get a little more open sound. You may be able to have a little more 100, 200, 300 hertz in your vocal. And so I want to have you keep an eye on the different sections of the song, the arrangement, and the way that that vocal's sitting. I don't have a great example for you for the first one, but just vocal EQ automation, different EQ settings between sections in the song. Number 4, vocal effects. Changing the vocal effects between sections in the song is a great way to add character and create interest to the listener, to engage them more in the music and the lyric. Some things that I do often are changing the modulation effects from more or less chorus, more or less phaser, flanger types effects, delay throws, of course, reverb throws, that kind of stuff. One I've been using lately, I saw Neil Avron using, actually I didn't see him doing it, I heard him doing it in some records he's done, where he was automating saturation throws. And it just blew my mind how awesome it sounded. And so I stole that and I've been using it a ton. I've got a couple examples for you here. Changing the effects between sections, great way to create interest. Let's take a listen to adding some saturation. So here we have the chorus is full on saturated, and then we're going to go to the verse where we change the effects up a bit.
I am waiting for the morning to get out of here alive. I am counting every second till the turning of the tide.
So you can see there, my VMR twice. One saturation plugin wasn't enough. I needed just a little bit more. So I automated these for the chorus to come on and add some grit. Let's take a listen to another section of the song where we've got the full array of effects coming out of this chorus, and then the song kind of dies down, and I wanted an intimate, in-your-face, clean, just super dry vocal. And so you'll see we've got modulation, another modulation, a stereo modulation, some verb, some cool stuff happening, delay, and all of these are gonna turn off at this next section. Check it out. So they're in, and then they'll be out.
Just to pass the time. So will you give me one more minute? I get scared when I wake up, 'cause these dreams are way more beautiful than real life ever was. Where do you go when you leave me?
And you can see they come back in and make the vocal feel a little more larger than life. All right, coming in at number 3, vocal compression. You can see here in my template, I've got something called the vocal crush. If you haven't seen my compression video, I've got a whole shootout where I shot the vocal through one compressor, just hit it really hard, multiple stages of compression, and then my personal preference, which is multiple stages of compression and a parallel compressor that's hit pretty hard. I'll link that above and down in the description. In this case, I've got it running through the FG Stress, all kinds of compressors, just a fast attack, fast release, whatever you do, go for that as your kind of default settings and then play with it from there. But we've got a ton of compression happening at the chorus. But then whenever the song kind of dies down out here, that section I just played for you, I wanted it to feel more natural. So again, not only were the effects getting cut out there, but the vocal crush is all but off. So it's completely off.
Just to pass the time. So will you give me one more minute? I get scared when
And that may be the case if you get verses. All the time I'm automating the vocal crush down in the verses, but then up at the chorus. Here's another example of that. Out here towards the end of the song, we have some synths and some overlaying kind of stuff that happens, and the vocal needed to cut even more so. So I went from this -11 level that I had the vocal crush at, my parallel compression, and then I boosted it to -6. So a nice 5-6 dB jump for the vocal parallel compression to help that vocal sit on top in a dense mix. Let's check that out. So you can hear that completely different tonality character from the different sections. All right, coming in at number 2, vocal clip gain automation. I use this on almost every single mix. It's a beautiful gift that we have nowadays with affordable gear that we can record in homes, hotels, project studios, and create awesome recordings. But what it's done is it's not only created a lot more music, but it's created a lot more terrible vocal recordings. So you got some great stuff coming from home studios, don't get me wrong, but I see the plethora, right? The full range of from terrible all the way to world class, even out of home studios. And clip gain is one of those tools where we can affect the let's say it like this. We can help reduce the peaks and bring the low stuff up, right? What compression is going to help us out with, but we can do it in a little bit more of a OCD control freak kind of way to really control what goes into our plugins. One more note is clip gain in almost every DAW is going to be pre-insert. And so it's going to allow us to change the vocal from word, phrase. You can lift the starts of phrases, ends of phrases. I do it all the time before hitting the processing. So let's take a listen. Here's the vocal with no effects, no processing whatsoever, and no clip gain.
Where do you go when you leave me alone at a party at 2 a.m.? I just lost all my friends.
Okay, this vocal is actually pretty even. I picked a horrible example for this particular number on the list here, but you still got some peaks, right? And you got some things that kind of disappear when it's by itself. Let's listen to it in the context of the mix, and you'll hear even more so what I'm talking about. So that last "where do you" kind of stands out, but then the last little bit kind of disappears, right? Obviously, there's no compression or anything, but now let's take a listen one more time in solo.
Where do you go when you leave me alone at a party at 2 a.m.? I just lost all my...
And now with the clip gain in, you can see I've bumped up certain words and phrases, and there's some clicks and pops that I got to go back and fix, but overall, you're going to hear that the vocal has come forward and it's got a little more character. You got a little crescendo on the end of that phrase there. Let's take a listen.
Where do you go when you leave me alone at a party at 2 a.m.? I just lost all my friends. Where do you go?
So friends, there's certain words that just weren't hitting the compressor evenly, and so now by driving it into the processing, it's going to even it out a little bit. So vocal, clip gain, automation. Let's move on to number one. All right, coming in at number one, we've got vocal volume automation. Duh, right? You think Andy Wallace, riding the faders, every word, every phrase to make sure it sits on top of the mix. I kind of use a combination of vocal clip gain automation like we just showed, and then phrase by phrase, I'll pull up or down certain vocal lines to help kind of even the performance out a bit. In this song, that's exactly what I did. I rode the vocal with clip gain automation, evened out the performance into the compressors. The compressors do their job, of course, and then the lead vocal level for me, the very last thing that the vocal hits before it gets sent out to my effects, is going to be what I ride. And so you'll see from section to section here, I've got some words, and the arrangement's going to dictate this. You get guitars that come in, or you get a synth line, or something that comes in and it kind of pokes through. That vocal's got to sit on top, and so this is where I'm going to ride the vocal and get it up on top. So here is an example. Let's go ahead and play this with the vocal automation, and then we'll turn it off. So you can see there, at a party at 2 a.m., that was way too low, so I pulled that up there, and actually, let's go back and listen. At a party at 2 a.m., I just lost all my friends. I just lost all my friends is a little low, so I'm going to come through here. I'm going to select that section, and let's do it here together. I'm going to go ahead and pull that up a couple more dB so it stays on top. When you leave me alone at a party at 2 a.m., I just lost all my friends. Where do you go? Maybe that's a little bit too much, but I think you get the point. Going word by word, phrase by phrase, and making sure the intelligibility of the lyric is super important. We got to make sure it stays on top. Hey, thanks for sticking with me. 5 vocal automation tips and tricks. Hope you dig that. Don't forget to check out the vocal mixing checklist where we're going to go through exactly how I mix vocals. I hope you check that out, and we'll see you in the next one.